It's 9 p.m. Do you know where your key fob is? Picture, if you will, the quiet space between headlines and halogen lights. Something lingers, stories too strange to print, too persistent to forget. A place where the news sometimes drifts into the unknown, where a broadcast once sparked panic, where shadows still walk in back alleys and foothills, and where the echoes of our past refuse to stay buried. On the agenda tonight, we walk that impossible line between the world we can prove and the one that refuses to stay silent. Along the vast Niagara frontier, the line between history and haunting is paper thin. Old walls breathe floorboards sigh, and the past lingers like fog over the river. There are places where guests never checked out, where the curtain still rises for an audience long gone, and where the echoes of old lives drift through the locked doors and empty halls. Here, every shadow carries a name, and every whisper feels like a memory trying to be heard. Because in this corner of Western New York, some stories don't end, they wait.
In the dark corners of this 289-year-old fort lie centuries of secrets, tales of heroics, and otherworldly experiences. One such tale takes us back to 1804 and the first sighting of the Hobgoblin of Niagara.
Imagine a regular goblin, and then think of one that's just a little hobbier.
Local historian and folklore expert Mason Winfield says the Hobgoblin has many interpretations. For example, this is how Marvel Comics pictures the beast, while Witchwood Brewery has a more playful creature on its label. Something somewhere in the middle is what is said to have made its presence known here on the shores of Lake Ontario.
They play pranks, they're small, they're elusive. So the Hobgoblin would be something that would be a little more of a prankster than an outright threat.
On the night in question, the Hobgoblin was not nearly as elusive in the thinking of a young company piper named John Carroll.
The fort piper paid tribute too freely to Bacchus, meaning the wine god, and he got a little lippy with the fort's commander.
And so as punishment for one of his drunken bouts here at Fort Niagara, he's actually thrown in the black hole,
which is the pit of solitary confinement.
The black hole was exactly that, dug into the floor of this building known as the South Redoubt.
In the wee hours, the piper's piteous wailing brought the guards, and he claimed that he had seen this demon.
According to the legend, he not only saw the demon or hobgoblin, he was instructed by him.
And they torment him, and they ask him to write a song.
This demon had inspired in him this terrific hymn that he really wanted to write. So he begged for paper and pencil and a candle, and he wrote down this song.
This is a recording of that song, named Carroll's Thoughts on Eternity. Carroll was ultimately released from the hole unscathed but shaken. But this was not the only sighting of a being described as a hobgoblin. A soldier was on sentry duty here in the graveyard around 1812. When he saw a being, he issued a "Halt, who goes there?" challenge to him before it comes into view during a lightning strike. The soldier is so frightened, he fires his rifle at it and runs right into a barricade and knocks himself out cold. This draws others out of their quarters, and when he comes to,
At which point he tells them what I saw was a hobgoblin. As you might imagine, our sergeant is pretty unimpressed with the idea of chasing a hobgoblin around.
But there was a connection between these two sightings.
He asks for Charlie's canteen. As Charlie hands him his canteen, the sergeant takes off the stopper on the canteen and takes a sniff. And he's like, oh, goodness. And he realizes that Charlie's canteen is about a quarter of the way full of corn liquor.
So a lot of the stories about spirits here may have been inspired by spirits.
By spirits themselves. You're absolutely right.
The tales of those characters of the past are still what brings this historic site to life.
So it's simply one of the figments of Fort Niagara folklore.
The Riviera Theater, a showplace of the Tonawandas. For parts of 10 decades, it's been a home to theater, concerts, and the mighty Wurlitzer, and looked after for nearly as long by a young spirit.
Mary is our ghost. She watches over the place.
Paranormal investigators on several occasions have found evidence of her existence. Those who work here, well, they have too.
If the theater hasn't been cleaned up in a couple of days, Mary kind of lets us know that she's not happy about that.
Young Mary, protecting the theater perhaps because she wishes it had once protected her. Back when the Riviera was also young, before stage riggings were operated with the safe counterweights we see today, there was an accident backstage. According to the story, a falling sandbag struck and killed a young girl, Mary. Now, the odd noise or mysterious sounds coming from the balcony, even things moved or missing, are attributed to her. But that only happens when she needs to remind the current occupants that this is her theater.
She likes how well I take care of the space, and that's why she leaves me alone.
And hopefully, for them, that exceptional care continues.
The Red Coach Inn, built in 1923, is the closest hotel in Niagara Falls, New York, to the brink of the falls. It's also an inn that many say holds a dark past, one that continues to haunt it today. From the ghost of a little girl that some believe perished in a fire in the building that stood on this spot before the inn, to another spirit that has been seen many times over the years.
I guess say they see the bride, a woman in a long white dress. They see her in this room, all around the property, and even in the restaurant.
She is an entity that they say appears to be much more aggressive and angry.
It's been said that a guest here felt hands around their neck during the middle of the night.
One of those guests who saw her actually told the story on the television show Celebrity Ghost Stories 2 years ago. Bernie Capel, who played Doc on the Love Boat.
And turns toward Earl and me. You could see the face was not a whole face. It was a face that had been mutilated.
She is said to be a woman who was murdered on her wedding night in 1927.
There was a husband here in this suite. This is the honeymoon suite. And he has said to have bludgeoned his bride to death.
Wow.
So, and...
I'm going to point out that that light just flickered when you said bludgeoned his bride to death. She also appears to be a spirit that wants to be remembered and seen.
There was one of the guests staying here, had a small child.
That small child kept screaming and crying all night, telling her mom that she saw a scary princess. So in this beautiful inn, just yards away from one of the most beautiful places in the world, you had quite a bit of heartache and tragedy.
Yeah.
And there have been many other strange things occur, including the woman in white, one morning, well before opening, when the restaurant was still locked, was seen sitting in this booth by a member of the waitstaff. On another occasion, a new bartender went to the basement to check on the fountain drink canisters.
You hear her, somebody scream, "Fire!" She said somebody screamed it at the top of their lungs. And you know, that's what you do in that situation. She was like, okay, I gotta get out of here. Somebody screamed fire. So she runs up the stairs, goes into the kitchen and says, did anybody hear anything? And everybody's just going out their normal business.
And the fact that a building burned to the ground on this spot just makes that story a bit creepier. It seems that everyone here has a story of their own.
Late at night when all the servers were doing their cash outs, and there's a big cast iron bell hanging off the wall, and there was no one standing near it. It just rang.
The spirits of the past still ringing through this stately old inn and providing a dark twist to the honeymoon capital.
Visitors to this historic Niagara County home come for the wine and spirits. It's now known as the Winery at Martian Manor, but this picturesque white-windowed home has a much darker history. It was built in the 1800s by Schubel and Sophia Merritt, who had an orchard and grew peaches, but life was not sweet. The couple's son, Louis, was the first unfortunate soul. He was coming downstairs to speak with his father after the two spent the afternoon together hunting. It was a Thursday at 3 o'clock when Louis burst through these French doors and wrote the first chapter in this ghoulish story.
Schubel turned and accidentally shot and killed his son.
Devastated, he ordered the French doors to be locked and never opened again. Schubel himself met with his own demise, also in this home, and also on a Thursday at 3 o'clock. His daughter Phoebe Sophia took possession of the manor, and while decorating for a ballroom dance, a fatal surprise. The locked French doors burst open. It was a Thursday at 3 o'clock.
Phoebe Sophia looked up, gave a gasp, and fell down dead.
And even today, occasionally, on a Thursday at 3 o'clock, these doors fly open on their own, as if Louis himself burst through from the other side.
Visions of beings from this world or beyond are as old as time itself, whether it be specters of loved ones past, the spirits of the tormented, or creatures from the under. Those tales live in not only the void of space, but along the rolling hills and cold waters of western New York.
Since the dawn of time, stories of monsters of the abyss have been passed down, and western New York has had its share of tales.
You almost can't find a body of water big enough to spin around in that there isn't some kind of a big snake legend about.
Mason Winfield has done quite a bit of research on the subject. Sightings in the Erie Canal, the rivers, the ponds, and of course the lakes.
Of course, the two big lakes, Erie and Ontario, both have their legends.
Lake Erie's monster is nicknamed Bessie and has been reported as recently as the 90s. Other such stories are much older, such as the Serpent of Ontario, that the Iroquois legend says would wage battle with the thunder god.
Majority culture people have claimed that they've seen really big serpents in Lake Ontario.
There's also the story of a monster at the base of Niagara Falls that would feed on people who ventured too close and could only be killed by a young man armed with a bow and arrow with a white arrowhead. It is said that a large vertebrae embedded with a white arrowhead was discovered during the construction of the original Shulkoff power plant in Niagara Falls.
The sightings that interest me the most are the really obscure ones, the ones in a body of water that the thing could hardly take a bath in it.
Right. Such as the serpent that is said to live in this small pond about the size of a football field in the town of Alabama. It's gone by many names: Spirit Pond, Spirit Lake, Divers Pond. It's a body of water held sacred by the Senecas. In fact, it was part of the Tonawanda Reservation until 1838.
The dark gray is the flint, I gather, that they use for arrowheads.
82-year-old Marvin Miser knows the land well, and he knows this pond.
My first experience being down here was in the mid-40s and ice skating.
He's lived in the area his whole life, and he's the current owner of the property adjacent to and a portion of Spirit Lake itself, which has also been called Bottomless Pond because of its murky, soft floor.
I have tried to put sticks or stuff down there and you just keep going down, down, down.
The perfect habitat for a sea monster, some might say. Not Marvin. Marvin's never seen one, but he also says he's not taking any chances.
Well, I never have, and no, I really don't think so. But I'll tell you one thing, I'm not taking any of the stones or anything that's supposed to be sacred.
Native legends date back centuries. The first settler to be introduced to it was the Reverend Samuel Kirkland in 1788. He was a minister to the Oneidas.
He was passing through western New York in the company of the Seneca, and the Seneca took him to this pond and said, there's a giant snake in there, and it breathes fire, and it needs a ceremony of tobacco every year on the right day, and if we don't do that ceremony, it comes out and kills people.
They performed a tobacco ceremony, and while Kirkland never admitted to believing in the serpent called Sais Togowa by the Senecas, he didn't take any chances either.
He spent a long time meditating at this little pond, and he left without touching finger or toe into the water.
The stories of sightings are countless, from the Great Lakes to Silver Lake, the Erie Canal to the base of the falls, and beyond. Whether you believe in them or not, the one thing that is 100% true, is that they have a home, treading water through the unknown stories of Western New York.
Few places in western New York can match the natural beauty of Genesee County's rolling hills. Fewer still can equal the supernatural bounty of its asylum.
It's actually documented through numerous websites and magazines as the second most haunted location in the U.S.
The county poorhouse opened here in 1827, and just over a decade later, it became the county infirmary. It's been home to widows, children, families, and criminals, many of whom have never left. They're seen moving through the halls, playing with toys and games, even talking with visitors.
Here, you never know what you're going to get.
Like phantom smells of lemon cookies and chocolate cake, courtesy of Aunt Maud, the former head cook. And a portal room, a place where mediums say the spirits can travel directly to the chapel 2 floors below. A location a little girl named Elizabeth is said to frequent, but she doesn't stay for long. She enjoys following the guests who visit her, and a boy, 10-year-old little Jack, who wants to play.
He runs around here with a striped shirt and shorts. He's very interactive with everybody.
But the most popular poltergeist within this 60,000 square foot metaphysical marvel is Roy, a 7.5-foot tall shadow man. His room, seemingly ill-fit to a specter of his stature, but Roy, it seems, is a lover of the arts, a reader, and a dancer. Make no mistake, however, at 7.5 feet tall, he is also this building's protector, and his voice, described as the deepest you will ever hear, is one perhaps better left silent.
Deep within the woods and within the tradition of the Iroquois people are stories of a dark being.
Many of the stories about him, he just appears and runs off or somehow bilocates.
One that Mason Winfield says has been reported during times of trouble.
It does look like it's something that answers to human unrest.
A tall, beastly-looking figure wearing a stovepipe hat, the name given to him by the Senecas, High Hat.
He's got a very sinister reputation. He's got a mouthful of really sharp teeth, and he's rumored to be a bit of a cannibal.
And while that thought may be horrific, Winfield says that High Hat may have been a witch in life and is now a feared spirit. The times he is said to have appeared have been times of unrest. One of the last was when native lands were taken and villages wiped out for the creation of the Kinzua Reservoir in northern Pennsylvania.
It was said that during the construction of the Kinzua Dam in 1960 through 1965, even the white construction workers were seeing High Hat. And they even got to nicknaming him something like Abe Lincoln.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he became such a proverb among them that they'd say, "Anybody seen old Abe Lincoln?"
This is white sage. This is sage that comes from out west.
As an Algonquin healer, storyteller, and spiritual teacher, Michael Bastine has a keen sense and respect for the realm beyond our consciousness.
And the term we use for this is smudging. And what we want is we will actually use a feather and we fan that smoke.
The feather of an eagle and the smoke combine, he believes, to communicate and to calm the beings on the other side.
And I think it can actually create an opening between both worlds.
Michael uses this ceremony as an offering to show respect for the spirit world each time he discusses it. He says many cultures have similar beings. The Mothman is one of the better known, and he describes a dark traveler who has been spotted in Tuscarora territory.
It's one that walks the roads or walks the paths at night.
That traveler is said to be in search of those out looking for trouble.
And when they encounter this and they tell the stories of it, there's an aroma, there's a smell that they can't describe. It would be like walking into an area where there's a decaying body. Those entities or those elements are there for a reason. It's actually to wake you up to say, maybe I need to readjust and make a few changes in my life because this thing is ominous.
Nearly 6 decades later, the signal still lingers, not from Mars, but from our own imagination. When we return, another Western New York mystery takes the airwaves and questions your perception of reality. Stay with us, if you dare. Imagine for a moment you're lying in bed, your thoughts drifting in and out as you begin to fade away for the night. And in between consciousness and dreaming, your mind begins to hear tales of a Martian invasion on Grand Island. Newsmen on the radio reporting about giant machines towering over the tree lines and shooting planes out of the sky. But you look out your window, and there's nothing but a calm, quiet night in Western New York. Was it a war of the worlds or a war of the mind?
It's Halloween, 1968, 11 o'clock at night.
Half of the radios in Buffalo were tuned to KB. Literally half. If you pulled over 50 cars, 25 of them were listening to KB at any given time.
You know, at 11 o'clock, I was literally, Halloween night lying in my bed with my little transistor radio.
Western New York and much of the East Coast was tuned in to Sandy Beach on 50,000-watt WKBW radio.
The very first call I ever took on KB when I was doing 7 to midnight was from Guantanamo Naval Base in Cuba.
WKBW radio produced the broadcasts unimaginable by today's standards.
Nobody did it then, and nobody's doing it now.
Led by WKBW program director Jeff Kay.
Jeff Kay is perhaps the finest radio producer who ever lived. Just listen to that broadcast. That was all from inside his head onto the radio.
Kay wrote and produced a radio play of H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds with a Western New York spin.
I'm in awe of Jeff Kay's talent. Originally, he wrote a script.
Kay realized in order for the broadcast to work, the KB newsmen needed to report on the story rather than act it out.
And what he got was literally lightning in a bottle.
In a moment, WKBW Radio will present H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. Forewarned.
So when I finished the portion of the Halloween show that I was involved with, I wanted to get home and listen to it with my family.
Sandy Beach took over the helm and conducted his radio show like any other night. That is until...
KB, Total News, Bulletin!
Even 10 years ago, we wouldn't interrupt a commercial to tell you about breaking news.
I've heard the broadcast so many times that every time I hear Hey Jude on the radio now, I think of KB's War of the Worlds.
It's been reported that a large meteor has smashed into the ground along the East River Road on Grand Island, setting off a series of fires. Several lives have been lost. KB Total News Director Don Lancer on the way to the scene.
We will be switching to our news department in a matter of moments.
Yes, Henry, it's not a meteor, Henry. My God, Don, there's something crawling out of the top of this thing. Good God Almighty, they've been hit with some sort of a red beam. One by one, the bodies are all over the place.
Tell them to get out of there. Don't let them go help Jim. Tell them get back.
They've blown the bridges. They're coming across anyway. It's not smoke. It's gas. It's gas. I can look right down in it right now in Niagara Square. Jim, it's turning my way.
Is anybody else in this building?
Lights are all going out.
And then silence. In the span of an hour, an entire news team, an entire region seemingly wiped out by invading Martians.
I stopped at a donut shop on the way home to pick up a bunch of donuts. We're going to sit around and listen to the show. And in the shop, there were two guys talking to the female cashier, and they were talking about the spaceship that landed on Grand Island.
I will admit that at one point, I actually did about 45 minutes in, I just looked out my bedroom window just for the heck of it, actually to add to kind of the imagination that did I see any lights in the sky or anything like that.
Take the time this Halloween night and listen to WKBW's War of the Worlds and ask yourself, what would you do if it happened?
In a city built on water and rumor, the line between myth and memory blurs easily. Perhaps the legends aren't haunting us at all, but maybe they're just waiting for airtime. And when the signal fades and the clock strikes midnight, remember, the agenda never truly ends. It only lingers.